Time is very precious. And so even if it's just a matter of months that you can stay alive to get into a clinical trial, like time is just absolutely essential.
Welcome to Believe in Progress, the American Association for Cancer Research Foundation podcast. Join us and be inspired by the incredible stories of those who have faced cancer with strength and resilience, and the medical professionals who are working tirelessly to find new treatments and ultimately a cure. Believe in Progress isn't just about the science of cancer. It's about the human side of this disease. Together, we can make progress in the fight against cancer and bring hope to those who need it most. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to share an important update. When we first spoke with Rhett Austell in the spring of 2025, he had just completed the Broad Street Run after a long and grueling recovery from stage 4 appendix cancer. His story was, and still is, one of incredible determination, strength, and hope. Since then, Rhett has continued to advocate fiercely for cancer research, raise awareness, and inspire others facing similar challenges. But recently, Rhett received some tough news. His cancer has returned. In true Rhett fashion, he's facing this next chapter with courage and resolve, continuing to use his voice to fuel progress and support the mission we all care so deeply about. So please stay tuned all the way to the end of this episode, where we're bringing you a special epilogue to this episode, an honest and heartfelt conversation with Rhett about where he is now, how he's feeling, and what he wants the world to understand about the fight against cancer. Because as Rhett reminds us, this isn't just an ongoing story of survival, it's a call to action. And don't forget, cancer research saves lives. What does it take to turn unimaginable life challenges into fuel for progress and motivate someone to run toward hope rather than away from it? In this episode of Believe in Progress, brought to you by the AACR Foundation, we're sharing the story of someone who's lived the highs and lows of cancer from every angle. Rhett Austell is a devoted father, cancer survivor, marathon runner, and passionate advocate for cancer research. From losing his father to lymphoma, to witnessing the life-saving impact of clinical trials on his father-in-law, and now navigating his own journey through stage 4 appendix cancer, Rhett's story is a powerful reminder of why cancer research matters. Now back on his feet and joining us just after running in the 2025 Broad Street Run, Rhett is using his story to raise awareness, push for continued research funding, and inspire others doing similar challenges. Rhett, welcome to Believe in Progress. So honored to have you here today.
Thanks, Mitch. It's really a pleasure to be here and speaking with you.
Your cancer journey began in an unexpected way. Could you tell the audience a little bit about that, please?
October of 2023, I woke up just like any other morning and had severe abdominal pain. The type of pain where I was like on the bathroom floor and really just couldn't do anything else. Really no other symptoms up to that point. And so at the ER, they very quickly determined I had appendicitis, but my appendix had actually ruptured. And in those situations, the protocol is to not do an operation in that moment, but treat me with antibiotics. So they followed the protocol. I was in the hospital for a couple days, but then in the follow-up, the surgeon explained that really it's important to mitigate any future risks to have your appendix taken out. 6 months later, I had a scheduled surgery to have my appendix removed, just with the general surgeon at my local hospital. And when he went in there, it was really a surprise. What he saw, my appendix was actually fused to my sigmoid colon. And I don't know much about the anatomy, or I didn't at the time. And he explained that those two things really shouldn't be near each other, or, certainly not fused together. In that conversation, following surgery, he didn't use the word cancer, but we really just needed to wait for the pathology. So I was, in the hospital a couple days because he actually had to do a colon resection, and ended up going home. And just, what was kind of top of mind for me was just, the uncertainty about what was happening in me.
Yes.
And, waiting for that phone call. Now, my wife also had some uncertainty about what was happening with her. And so the night I was got home from the hospital, she took a pregnancy test, and we found out that we were expecting a baby.
Great news, but that's a strange coincidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Chloe is now 6 months old and
Ah,
like going through teething but is otherwise doing amazing.
great.
But just a few days after that good news, my doctor called me and explained that I had mucinous adenocarcinoma. Um, so yeah, that was, I mean, the biggest shock of my life.
Yeah, of course. Let me ask you, go back, when you said you were in terrible pain in the beginning there, like you had appendicitis, but it was 6 months before you had the surgery, right?
Yeah.
Did you have did you have pain throughout that 6 months?
Not really. No, no, I didn't,
Okay.
fortunately. So I didn't have any sort of acute pain. Uh, there were some other things that happened in that 6 months. So, like, there were some, bowel movements that just, the stool,
Yeah.
there's blood in it. I also had to have colonoscopy
Mm,
because before my surgeon would do anything else inside of me, he wanted to understand if there was anything in my colon. What they found actually were a number of very large polyps. So the first colonoscopy I had, they actually, you know, didn't have the proper equipment to remove the polyps that I had
mm,
of the size.
mhm.
So then I had to go for another colonoscopy where a specialist had the right equipment, and those ended up being precancerous. So at some point, it was a ticking time bomb, regardless of what happened
Mhm.
with my appendix at that
Mhm.
point in time.
Were you too young to get a colonoscopy just like a normal, like I get a normal colonoscopy every 10 years?
Right. Yeah. So at the time I was 38, and
Yeah.
I guess like the recommended age is maybe 45
Yes.
now,
Yes. Mhm.
unless you have a family history. I don't have a family history of colon cancer.
Yeah.
A very Otherwise a very complicated
Yeah.
family history with cancer, more of
Yes.
like blood cancers, but
Yeah.
yeah, not with colon cancer.
What was the emotion like for you and Chelsea, obviously, to, get the best news one can get as a husband and wife having a newborn, and then, you being diagnosed with cancer?
Very quickly, we were thinking about how it actually is a blessing that we are pregnant at that moment, because you don't know what the road ahead for you is as a result of treatment.
Right.
So, we expected chemotherapy. Um, we expected surgery in the future as part of the treatment. And when you're dealing with something in your lower, abdominal cavity, especially also with chemotherapy drugs, just don't know what it does to fertility. So
Right.
we just thought of it the entire time as like it couldn't have happened at a better
Yeah,
time.
good way to look at it. That's for darn sure. Yeah. What helped you get through the physical and emotional recovery after such a major surgery?
I guess I've had two surgeries. There was that one, which, just removed the appendix and resectioned my colon, but it wasn't like a cancer
Right.
surgery. And so what happened next was I had uh, chemotherapy over the summer, and then a major cytoreductive surgery in September. I guess a few things helped get me through it. One is just like finding humor and joy in everyday life. So I have another young daughter who, at that time, she turned one. Looking at the world through the eyes of a 1 year old, which I would try to do, there's just so much wonder and joy. And she's like just such a ray of sunshine. So, like, spending as quality time with all of my daughters. So at the time, I had three daughters, and
Ah,
now I have four daughters.
wow.
So yeah, spending the quality time with them and seeing, like, the wonder and joy in every day, and just also like humor. I have a group of friends, and they very quickly, they provided amazing support, but also very quickly, we were able to joke with each other about certain things. They're all in the medical field, so they knew exactly what I was
Ah,
working through.
you've experienced both heartbreak and hope. Both your father and your father-in-law have experienced cancer. Could you talk a little bit about my both examples? Your dad first, maybe, and then your father-in-law.
My dad, in late 2017, um, he was 64 at the time, was diagnosed right around Christmas with lymphoma. non-Hodgkin's diffuse large cell B lymphoma. We're very fortunate where we live and where my parents live in the Philadelphia area. So he was treated at Penn
Hmm.
and, started his treatment, I think, more on the traditional chemotherapy route and then did like some radiation over the summer. But very quickly, his cancer was very aggressive. And so, midway through the summer of 2018, it was clear that like those methods weren't working for
My
him.
brother's is also had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma B cell, and he did the Rituxant was the drug that they gave him. That anything that they did not give that to your dad?
That is very familiar. Like if my mom was next to me, she would
Yeah.
tell you every single like
Hmm.
treatment
Right.
that he got.
Okay.
My memory is not as good, but yeah, I think that and Epoch sounds familiar as
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean that was the type of treatment he got initially. Spending a week inpatient at Penn for his chemo, and then a few weeks at home, and then just kind of going through the rounds like that. But yeah, very quickly thereafter, over the summer, it was clear that it was not working for him. And so, Penn is one of the best places in the world for CAR T therapy.
Yes.
And so he was enrolled in CAR T, and I think he got one sort of major dose of that. But, it's just one of those things like as promising as it is and as much hope as we had. We actually have a close family friend who had the same exact lymphoma that my dad did, similar age. He went through CAR T and it worked for him, but for my dad, it didn't.
Yeah.
So he passed away in November of 2018,
Okay. How old was your dad? Do you remember?
65.
Very young.
And
Yeah.
otherwise, like really like in tremendous health. He was a marathon runner. He
Really?
ran in the last 10 years of his life. If you count the medals on his wall, I think there are 16 medals. I think most of them were full marathons.
Very nice. I hope you're enjoying today's episode. I wanted to take a quick moment to remind you that your support is vital in our fight against cancer. As we always say at the AACR, cancer research saves lives, but we cannot do that without the generous support of people like you. If you're moved by the stories and insights shared in our podcast, please consider making a donation to AACR by visiting aacr.org. Your contributions help fund essential research and provide support to those affected by cancer. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to the Believe in Progress podcast. By subscribing and sharing with your friends and family, you help us reach more people with these important conversations. Thank you for your support. Now let's get back to the episode. Tell us about your father-in-law. I think he had a little bit different experience, a little more of a hopeful outcome, right?
His doctors didn't think it would end up this way. So in 2005, he was in his mid 40s. He was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma of unknown origin. Just had the most awful experiences with chemotherapy and surgery. It just like spread throughout his body. Basically, he was having the conversations with his kids. So at the time, like my wife was 13, and his youngest daughter was a toddler, and so really big years in that family. But he was having conversations about like being terminal. But really, and the doctor's perspective was, we're just trying to keep you alive so that science can catch up. And he ended up making it into a clinical trial of Keytruda. Keytruda is like one of the first approved
Immunotherapies.
uses for it was it
Mm-hmm.
was for melanoma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he made it into the Keytruda clinical trial, and it saved his life. And this happened 20 years ago, and he's living his best life right now. In fact, in the last month, he got his port removed, and he's no longer, going for the every 6-month CT
Mm.
scan. So I mean, it's yeah, like clinical research, science, the drive forward in medicine, those all saved his life.
That's amazing. Amazing. So tell us a little bit about your own beliefs in funding and accelerating cancer research, especially for you and for the experiences that you have gone through with your very close family.
Just the experiences of my dad and my father-in-law like demonstrate the importance of uh continuing research, but and also like how essential time is. Time is very precious, and so even if it's just a matter of months that you can stay alive to get into a clinical trial, like time is just absolutely essential. There's a bigger picture here going on with funding of cancer research and the cuts that are happening in the NIH right now at a bigger level. Raising awareness of the importance of research is important to me. And then in my own case, like the onset of cancer in younger people is in the headlines all the time right now, and I experienced it myself. So there's just a lot of significant research that has to happen to understand why younger and younger people are getting very aggressive cancers.
Hmm. It's interesting. You talked about buying time. I have a very close personal experience with one of my best friend's grandson. It has a brain tumor. This is an 8-year-old little
Mhm.
boy, and he's already had his biopsy, and they're doing radiation right now, which is helping him. But it's trying to figure out what clinical trial to get him into, and they're actually looking at CAR T therapy as well.
Mhm.
It's a real tough problem, but the families, again, similar to what your thoughts were about buying more time for this little guy, because you just don't know what's around the corner. Can't give up hope. You have to keep believing. So obviously, sounds like running has been a really big part of your life, with your dad and yourself. What was it like for you just to get back on the road and start getting into a training regimen?
It was one of the first things I thought of after my surgery in September. So in September of last year, in 2024, I had cytoreductive surgery. So basically, what that is the surgeon goes in into your abdominal cavity and just removes any tissue that could possibly have cancer, in addition to removing the cancer itself. So during that surgery, when they opened me up, it was actually a bit surprising. They found that um, my surgeon described it, Dr. Smith said, as like the size of his head, basically, in my pelvis. And so I ended up having a total colectomy, and I now have an ileostomy, along with a partial cystectomy. So like the cancer had infiltrated my bladder,
Right.
and then like my peritoneum. So I had this massive surgery. I was in the hospital for about 3 weeks. Ended up getting norovirus in the midst of that, which complicated the picture given my new plumbing.
Right.
But questions that Chelsea asked Dr. Smith pretty soon after my surgery is whether I would be able to run a marathon again. He had a very skeptical expression and basically, said unlikely. And so, like, that sort of set a target for myself.
How did she react to that?
I think she kind of knew that I would not listen to
Right.
that. Yeah. Um, and so in the hospital, I created a playlist called 2025 Marathon. In that moment and in the months, during my recovery, I wasn't sure whether I would be able to do that marathon, but I didn't want my setback to be the determinant of that. I wanted that decision to be my own. Like, maybe I just don't have time because I'm so busy doing other stuff to train for a full marathon. But I did set a goal of doing the Broad Street run, and
Hmm.
that really came about after having started my physical therapy and feeling like the strength come back to me. And by like before cancer, therapy, running was really kind of like a form of therapy for me.
Yes.
At the end of a work day, I could go out for a run and just clear my mind.
Great,
Um,
great stress reliever, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And uh, running after my surgery and my cancer had a greater meaning to me as well because it felt like I had more agency over my body and over my health, which you lose entirely while you're going through cancer.
Can you tell me a little bit about your 25 playlist? Is this a music playlist?
Yeah, on Spotify, just some of my favorite music from over the years that I enjoy running to. Yeah.
How'd you choose the AACR to raise money for?
My sister ran the half marathon in Philly in November, and my sister-in-law ran the full marathon,
Ah,
and both of them raised money for the AACR.
that's great.
No brainer for me to sign up and raise money with you guys.
Well, I want our audience to know that Rhett was the number one fundraiser for the Broad Street Run, raised over $9,159, and I'm so grateful, and I applaud your efforts. Thank you very much for that. So I really appreciate that effort. Tell me what you thought
You're
of
welcome.
Broad Street. I have run Broad Street before, and to me, I've run a few marathons, not as many as you. For me, it was the most inspirational run I think I've ever run in, just because of the magnitude of the sea of people, and then the people
Yeah,
that cheer you on all along the route. You know, the true Philadelphia.
yeah,
I remember, Rhett, stopping along the course, and there was a church group, and they were singing, and I pulled
yeah.
off and started singing with them. I was just like moved. What was your experience like?
So similar to that. Well, the Philadelphia Pride, especially after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, is
Yes.
just like off the charts.
Yep.
So lots of go birds. But yeah, along the course, I think I saw like that same group outside the church. You know, they then had the Temple University marching band when you're running past Temple. Definitely the most impactful for me was the AACR cheer station
Yeah.
near Snyder
Yes.
at South Philadelphia High School, and I mean that they were just raucous, and that was awesome.
I think I have your time. 1 hour, 37 minutes and 12 seconds. Is that right?
Yeah,
Were you happy with that?
I had no expectations when I signed up for the race. I just wanted to finish. I think I registered myself for like the slowest corral when I signed up because I just
Okay.
didn't know.
Yep.
Um, and so that's like 2 hours. But as I was doing my training runs, I'm like, wow, this is like I'm doing pretty well. And so yeah, I was really thrilled with my result. Yeah, maybe this is where I can make my public announcement that my sister and I are going to run the full marathon in November.
There you go. Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, good for you. It's a wonderful run, and again, the city of Philadelphia does it right, and I can guarantee you some really cool cheer stations for that run as well. So I'd love to know a little bit about what gives you hope right now in research and recovery, or just life in general. What's your message to our audience?
You really need to put your belief in the care team around you, and that gives me so much hope. So not just your family members who take care of you, but also the medical professionals that you're working with. And I had so much confidence in the team that worked with me, and yeah, I wouldn't be here without them. And they're just so dedicated. You know, there's a lot of stories, and sometimes people complain in like the doctor your reviews, like on Google, like you'll read a review, they're like, my appointment started an hour and a half late. Like, what's going on here? But the reason why that is, and this I experienced this with my dad's treatment and my own, is that the staff is really giving patients all the time they need, and also really under researches and understands what your particular situation is. So I'd happily sit in the lobby at MSK where I was treated and, you know, wait for my doctor to see me because I know that Dr. Sursik, who is my oncologist, and Dr. Smith, my surgeon, having faith in them um, because they're so dedicated to find cures and to help patients.
So, Rhett, the name of my podcast is our podcast is Believe in Progress. What does believe in progress mean to you?
I think it's that, you know, with resources and money, we can get we can find a cure. You know, science, if it has people and the money to fund research, will get there. And it got there for my father-in-law just in time. So with money and people, we will make progress.
That's great. Well, listen, it's been a true pleasure for us to have you here today. One thing I want to do, though, this fall, I really would like to meet your wife and those four girls because I imagine they'll be cheering Dad and your sister and sister-in-law on.
Chelsea would love to meet you. She's had such a great like at the race at Broad Street. She
Yes.
spent a lot of time talking to the AACR team. Amazing people, and they made more signs they could actually hold. So yeah, they'll make all the signs.
Well, listen, you have a good day. Stay safe where you are, and we'll look forward to seeing you back in Philadelphia. Keep up the good health, keep up the fitness and the running, and we'll look forward to seeing you very soon. And again, thank you for your generosity, your advocacy, and being a champion for AACR. It means an awful lot to me and to our team. We really appreciate that, and you stay healthy, my friend.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for having me, Mitch.
Thank you again for listening to this important conversation with Rhett. Here's part two of our conversation with Rhett Austell, an update on his fight against cancer. What happens after the race with your sights set on your next goal, but the finish line moves and your fight continues? In this special follow-up epilogue of Believe in Progress, we reconnect with our friend, Rhett Austell, cancer survivor, marathon runner, father of four, and relentless advocate for cancer research. Since first sharing his story, Rhett continues to navigate life as a survivor of stage 4 appendix cancer, dealing with a cancer recurrence, all while raising awareness and critical funds for life-saving cancer research. This isn't just an ongoing story of survival, it's a call to action. Rhett, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming back to speak with us today. How you doing? Tell us what's going on.
Well, thanks, Mitch. It's good to see you again, but I do wish it was under different
Yes,
circumstances.
me too.
Um, yeah, I'm doing okay. It's been a few months since we last talked, but when we talked, I guess in early May, I was about to start training for the Philadelphia
Yes.
Marathon, and then at the end of May, I sort of started to feel a twinge in my abdomen. I thought maybe it was a muscle tweak from a golf swing I made, but then it just continued to kind of build and evolve over the coming weeks. And I had to suspend my marathon training in June. And it was in July that I found out that I had a recurrence of my appendix cancer. Yeah.
What are you doing? How are you treating it? How are you handling it?
Yeah. I guess how I'm handling it is I've gone through every emotion possible. Uh, fear for my own life. I guess the statistics aren't great when you have a recurrence of stage 4 cancer. Um, anger, sadness for my family that we have to pause our life again and tackle this. Um, so yeah, I've dealt with all the emotions, and where I am now, I last week finished my third round of full fury chemotherapy. I'll do another round next week, and then have a check in with my oncologist, do some scans and some blood work, determine if I'll do more chemotherapy. But again, I'll be dealing with surgery sort of as my next major step after chemotherapy.
When's that supposed to happen?
The expectations were 3 to 6 months of chemotherapy, and then surgery as like a fast follow to that. Um, but I guess what ended up happening was in July the pain was really terrible. I was taking 1,800 milligrams of Advil a
Oh my.
day, and then some other prescriptions and approaches to try to deal with the pain. But at the same time, my CT scan and blood work didn't indicate that anything was wrong.
Hmm.
So, like, my CT scan looked beautiful, according to my surgeon and oncologist, and my blood work was still in the normal range. But I just knew something was wrong with my body. Um, and eventually, an MRI confirmed that I had a 3 centimeter mass growing in my abdominal muscle, along with another like nodule somewhere else in my abdomen. So that's kind of what we're dealing with now. And when they open me up, we'll see what else is there.
First time around though with this, is it similar? Was the pain similar and was the course of treatment the same?
I mean, this was really actually the first time that I felt pain from. Well, a different type of pain. I was dealing with lower back pain a year ago in the summer, but not unlike, sort of stress related lower back pain that, people in their late 30s, experience from having a busy life with a career and a bunch of kids. But this time around, the the pain, I could just tell something was wrong. I had the suspicion that the cancer was back. My family were not convinced. They're just like, "Oh, you probably tore a muscle,"
Right.
and but I just knew something was wrong. Um, and in terms of the treatment, it's a slightly different approach. Last year, I did Folfox, kind of similar drugs, but with the difference of the Folfox had oxaliplatin, which is a chemotherapy. This year, they've replaced that with irinotecan, so a slightly different chemotherapy.
How's your wife, and how are the kids dealing with this? And it's got to be, I mean, it's got to be challenging because you want them to, maintain a normal cadence, if you will, whatever normal
Yeah,
means. But
I mean, Chelsea's just a rock star, um,
yep, that's great.
and my kids are they're they're doing okay. Um, Augie is so I've got four daughters, an 11-year-old, 9-year-old, an almost 2.5-year-old, and a 11-month old.
Wow, all girls,
All girls,
love
yeah,
it.
and I mean they're all dealing with it in different ways. Obviously, um, we do get some laughs. We get a lot of laughs from them every single day.
Hmm.
There was one moment when I was waiting for a CT scan, an MRI, that we brought the two younger ones with us because we didn't just have childcare that day. And so we were at Memorial Sloan Kettering in Basking Ridge, New
Oh yeah,
Jersey, in the waiting room, and a lot of patients, in similar situations around me. And Augie, she was just, entertaining the whole lobby, saying hi to everyone. But she knows what's going
yeah,
on. She was also telling everyone that Dada has a boo boo in his belly. So they're all processing it in different
yeah.
ways.
Is that where are you being treated in Basking Ridge?
That's where I go for my
Okay,
chemotherapy. Yeah, it's
okay.
it's just an
Yeah,
hour from our
it's
house.
very close to where I live. Actually, it's not too
Oh
far
yeah,
away. My
yeah,
kids
yeah.
actually grew up in Basking Ridge area.
It's a great,
Yeah,
yeah, great
it's
area.
it's a good spot. You've always been a big advocate for the need to fund research. Can you chat a little bit more about that? I think your advocacy has continued to increase, and just kind of like to get your sense about what you think's going on, and the importance of funding cancer research.
I kind of look at it at the personal level and then the more global level. I think in our last recording, I talked about the importance of it on a personal level with my dad, who underwent CAR T therapy, and my father-in-law, who was in the first clinical trials of Keytruda, like literally the first. Uh, and at some point, I may be on that path as well. With they actually started a clinical trial for appendix cancer at MSK in September. I'm not at that point yet, so we're still using the standard of care for myself. But you know, it'll be a journey for
It's
me.
possible. Yeah.
At the global level, I mean, it really is a war that we're against cancer. Dating back 50 years to when Richard Nixon kicked off the war on
Yes.
cancer, and started this massive investment by the federal government. And there's been tremendous progress. Like, two-thirds of I read two-thirds of cancer patients now survive 5 years from their diagnosis, when a number of decades ago it was just half, less than half of people survived. So the progress is tremendous. But in my own experience and what you see in society with cancers into younger patients, cancer's unrelenting. It doesn't stop. It evolves. It's really disheartening to see massive cuts to clinical trials. Hundreds of millions of dollars of research grants have been canceled, and another hundreds of millions are suspended. Um, and there's proposals to cut, the budget of the National Cancer Institute by a third. And it's just it's really disheartening to see society, um, you know, step back the fight.
Mhm.
Yeah,
What would be your advice to people to try to help in this?
advocate, reach out to uh, your elected
Right.
representatives. We've done that personally to our representatives in Pennsylvania. So it has to come from the people that this is a priority. And cancer it doesn't discriminate. 40% of people will get cancer in their lives, no matter what religion, race, background.
Cancer knows no politics.
Yeah, exactly.
We just had the Rally for Medical Research a couple of weeks ago, and hundreds of people were on Capitol Hill talking about the need just to fund NIH. This was all life sciences, of course, including cancer research as well. And I really think that message is beginning to get through because we've seen both the House and the Senate kind of come back with a funding bill that is, not cutting. It's either keeping pace or a slight increase. So we're hopeful, but people need to continue to advocate because cancer research does save lives, and we're pretty confident about that. So we know you're not going to run the Philadelphia Marathon, at least this year, but who are you going to be cheering for?
My sister-in-law, Amberly, she's going to run it.
Nice.
She's actually an oncologist nurse.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, she is, and so we're going to be cheering
She's
her on.
one of the angels out there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my sister was planning to run it with me, but we'll pick another marathon and do that
That
together.
sounds like a plan. That sounds like a really good plan. Well, listen, my friend, you've got a lot of courage to come on and talk about this, and we all out there and the audience appreciate you, and we're all going to be praying for you. And you've got a remarkable positive attitude, and you've got a remarkable family, and you've got an extended family, as you well know here with the Believe in Progress podcast family. So hang tough, and let's plan on that next marathon. Okay.
Thanks, Mitch.
Rhett's journey reminds us that cancer doesn't just change the patient, it shapes entire communities. It challenges families, sparks movements, and inspires all of us to dig deeper and do more. From heartbreak to healing, Rhett's story is about turning pain into purpose and using your voice, your story, and even your stride to make a difference. If this episode moved you, here's how you can take action today. Donate to the AACR. Fuel life-saving research at aacr.org. Share this episode. Send it to someone who needs hope or a reason to keep going. Subscribe to Believe in Progress. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Rhett, thank you for your courage and your resilience, your advocacy, and everyone listening, thank you for believing in progress. We are all cheering for you, Rhett. And don't forget, cancer research saves lives.